It's hard work, but we pay a fair price for any ore you dig up.
Can't say I envy miners. They do work as hard as any combatant, with none of the glory.
Well met, traveler. I am Qa'Dojo, a monk making the pilgrimage to the shrine of Azura. Then today will be no different than any other. For while I recognize Azura's place in the pantheon of the divines, the Daedra hold no particular favor in the doctrine I follow. Some may see the line between Aedra and Daedra as a means of separation, when the divide itself is the true nature of our existence. It is in the eye of the storm that one finds balance, and with balance comes the flourishing of life. A Northman lies in the field and sleeps away the day. His family lives on the brink of starvation, unable to extricate themselves from their poverty. One day, a wayward saber cat stalks through the field. It attacks the man, wounding him severely before he manages to flee. With the husband bedridden, the wife awakes from her stupor. She weaves fabrics and works the field to provide for her children. The man's son learns to hunt. He seeks revenge on the saber cat that nearly killed his father. The man's daughter trains in alchemy to help restore her father's vigor. As the children mature, the family becomes a valuable pillar of the village. One might say they have the saber cat to thank. Then I implore you to ask them. To ask a question is to risk being a fool, but to cling to silence is to remain one. The Aedra are thought to be callous because they are indifferent, too often leaving mortals to their own devices. It reminds me of the parable of the acolyte priestess who stole from the alms bowl. The other acolytes beseeched the head priest to investigate the matter and cast the thief out. Yet the priest replied that he already knew the identity of the thief. The acolytes, angered, threatened to leave if the culprit was not revealed. "If I cast the thief out," he replied, "how will he ever learn remorse? If you leave, how will I ever teach you forgiveness?" That is one interpretation. The priestess, overwhelmed by her master's kindness, would realize the error of her ways. Perhaps driven by guilt, she would expose herself as the thief, and through her bravery, truly achieve the forgiveness of her peers. For any other path would result in bitterness and resentment, although these provide their own lessons, should the head priest choose to teach them. I pay homage to the divines as a whole, and the invisible thread that is woven between them. One does not look at a centipede and see 15 separate segments. One cannot focus on a leaf, for in doing so he will neglect the whole tree. Much like Talos, many believe divinity can be acquired through achievement. It reminds me of the tale of the acclaimed assassin from Blackmarsh. The guildmaster in Riften requested the assassin train his thieves in matters of stealth. However, the assassin refused. For while in the swamps of Blackmarsh he was a master, in the forests of Riften he was but a novice. A great mortal is a master of their own plane, where a god is limited by none. Boethia is the prince of plots, deceit, and conspiracy. Such words are sinister when spoken in the void. Yet, when the scales of power tip toward tyranny, when the strength of the dishonorable cannot be vanquished by a frontal assault, Boethia is there. Mola Gabal, meanwhile, is her nemesis. For he is strength and domination, and those who enslave others do so in his name. Although Boethia teaches us that strength can be vanquished, Molag Bal demonstrates that weakness is not a virtue. Mehrunes Dagon is the facilitator of destruction, the great equalizer of this plane. For when life is allowed to grow unchecked, it will wither from its own abundance. Such is the complexity of life. For all intentions, all actions, flow on the waves of balance. There is the story of a monk who traveled through a busy market, where a butcher was peddling his meats. The monk asked the butcher which meat was the tastiest, and the butcher promptly replied, "All of it. Everything I sell is tastier than the other." And when the monk understood the butcher's lies were true, he gained a fragment of wisdom. I was trained as a priest of Stendar, but I felt the temple did not do enough to disavow the militants who walk the land in his name. I considered converting to the Temple of Julianos, and had packed for the great chapel in Skingrad to begin my training. There was only one item I could not find, my copy of the book, Aedra and Daedra. I scoured every corner of my quarters, until at last I saw it. It was placed on top of a high bookshelf. Now, they say those who hurry only slow themselves in the end. If only I heeded such sage advice. Instead of reaching for the footstool, I attempted to climb the shelf, only to fall flat on my tail. However, as it so happens, I lost my balance but gained my footing. For when my head struck the ground, I had a vision. We Khajiit are quite adept, but the Divine saw fit to change that. When I struck my head on the ground, I lost consciousness, but gained clarity. I saw Aedra and Daedra in the stars, side by side. They made no distinction between themselves, for one were all, and all were one. One must both have purpose and flexibility. He may walk a path of many roads to the same destination. He may not know where the destination lies until the moment he arrives at it, and even then, it may not fulfill his true purpose. I am reminded of the story of a carpenter who was tasked with hanging a painting for the Count. The painting was hung over the bedchamber, and while it seemed to be a perfect fit, the Count nevertheless told the carpenter to take it down. Back and forth the pair went, from the study to the great hall, each time the Count requesting the carpenter to hang the painting, then remove it, after walking the breadth of the castle. At long last, they returned to the bedchamber. Only this time, when the painting was hung, the Count was satisfied, for only by seeing all other alternatives did he know his choice was true. And thus, my request is this. If you will do me the honor of being my carpenter, and I yours, then I will forever be in your debt. An adventurer treads through a cave when he is attacked by trolls. He runs towards a ledge and attempts to descend down the vine of hanging moss. It is then that he discovers a pack of wolves at the bottom, waiting hungrily for his arrival. Only the moss sustains him. If he waits, he knows that help may arrive. The cave is frequented by warriors and adventurers alike. It is then that he notices the dagger lodged in the rock beside of him. It is just beyond his reach, but he thinks he can lunge for it if he lets go of the moss. May you be safe wherever you go.
We were supposed to be rich by now, you know? Thorgar insisted we'd be swimming in gold.
Thorgar says we'll find rocks soon, the kind worth gold.
vegetable or something. Buried under an avalanche.
There you are. Not you specifically, of course, but I was waiting for an adventurer to free me from this predicament. I had assumed Borvir would be more than enough protection against the occasional bandit. He said he was a conjurer from the College of Winterhold, and that's his corpse. So I'm beginning to doubt the accuracy of that statement. Right. That's me. Tough, clever, and, well, probably lucky. Although, my resilience has nothing to do with my own constitution. I always carry a satchel of blue mountain flowers to chew on to restore my health in emergencies. And, well, lettuce to help me with the luck. In any event, my name is Kianna. I'm an alchemist. And no, I won't brew you an ale. Predicament? Oh, right. Well, when, Borvir became arrow fodder, I humbly suggested to the bandit that he could make far greater use of me alive. I explained to the brute, using very small words, that I was an alchemist of some skill and could mix powerful potions on his behalf. In truth, I was planning on killing him using a similar trick to the one, Asliel Dureni used to vanquish the Lockvar. But before I could, enact my plan, another bandit killed him and took his place. 3 bandits later, and, well, here we are. No, not in the slightest. A wise move. Although I hesitate to accuse a bandit of wisdom. Sometimes I wonder if their diet is made of wickweed. You aren't related to any bandits or anything, are you? I hope I didn't just, insult your sister. I bet she's really pretty. Yes, Borvir. We were roommates. Well, without the room. I found him out here by chance, fighting an ice wraith. I deduced he was a mage, and when he finished off the wraith, I asked him if I could, purchase the teeth. I told him I rely on invisibility potions to, survive out in the wild. But Borvir insisted he needed the teeth for chilling his mead. Needless to say, I was surprised to find he knew a thing or two about alchemy. More importantly, he had a table, so I followed him home. He was a bit abrasive, and I knew he'd eventually ask me to leave. Luckily, he was also a conjurer, and had a few spare lavender lying around. When digested, lavender will normally help you resist magic, but if you only chew on the sprigs, it can fortify your personality. That's how I convinced them to share the space, with a rudimentary alchemist trick, and, perhaps a little feminine charm? Right, like I said, feminine charm. As in, I charmed Borvir into behaving like a gentleman. He slept on the furs. We've been known to, experiment with various ingredients. But Borvir would have been the one to ask about that. Well, back when he was alive. Alchemy is mostly a serious endeavor. There's a few jokes my colleagues like to pass around, but they're mostly awful. Except, snowberries do help you resist fire. So do fire salts. I don't think that makes sense. Which is good, for you, anyway. You don't want to get in the habit of making alchemy jokes. Well, because they're stupid. You do realize these jokes are awful, right? If you were studying at a Jester Academy, they would probably be, grounds for expulsion. But alright, how's this? An arena fighter takes a blow to the head. Blood starts leaking into his eyes, but the fighter refuses to yield. The next blow knocks him out, and he loses the match. The next day, he visits the alchemist and, screams at the potion maker. You told me bleeding crowns can fortify your blocking, he says. And that's the joke. I told you it was horrifying. I came out here for research. Most of my colleagues find that absurd, considering this part of Skyrim is, blanketed with snow. Field research is typically conducted in the forests to the south, in caves, or near the marshes. But I'm not really looking for the typical. We're not going to advance the field of alchemy without thinking outside the satchel. that's still not a bad thing. An explorer can comb half the desert and find nothing, but the next one will know where not to look. It's trial and error, the process of elimination. That's pretty much the methodology of any alchemist. Field, but I'm not really looking right. But, well, I'm alive, aren't I? I think that's proof enough. Although, granted, I rely more on, craftiness and luck. Of course, you can make your own luck. All you need is a crown of lettuce and some taproot. Field research, but I'm not really looking for the typical. Well, as a matter of fact, there are some birds of prey who dive underwater to feed, and fish who leap out of the water to evade predators. So I'd argue that things that haven't been discovered are, well, counterintuitive by nature. Not everything is as obvious as death bells. Field research, but I'm not really looking for the typical. Right. It's a figure of speech. It means, well, I'm terrible at explaining these things, at least without some stoneflowers and creshweed. I don't suppose you have any on you. Probably not. Right. Teach you alchemy. In a word, no. I mean, alchemy isn't just measuring out ingredients and boiling them together like a soup. No two ingredients are alike. You can have one juniper berry that's sweet and ripe, and another one that's highly acidic. You have to take into account your surroundings. I mean, what if there's magical resonance affecting your distillation? Is the room sanitized? Is your alembic sanitized? Trace elements of other ingredients, no matter how small, can alter the output completely. It's not something I can teach. You need to have a feel for the variables and how they're changing. You either have it or you don't. Goodbye.
We were supposed to be rich by now, you know? Thorgar insisted we'd be swimming in gold.